Low quality fans, we are back. We are back with a brand new, way too early power rankings, just like we did last year. Don't go look at that video because there may have been a couple things that weren't exactly correct. But hey, there were also a bunch of things that were spot on, such as my number one placement of the Colorado Avalanche. We're wearing the Conn Smythe winner right now. You gotta do it. There's a new number one, though. We're going 32-1. We're swapping around. We're going to go to the back to the front. People were like, nah, it doesn't make sense to go front to back, so we're doing back to front. But there's a new number one. Spoiler alert. I don't know how I feel about it, but I made that choice. I did. Keep in mind, I made these rankings based off of what I think their odds are to win a cup. I am going to include how their season ended last year and where they were in league standings last year for each of these teams. But I didn't want to base this off of like where I think they'll place in league standings. I wanted to put, hey, my number one I think should be the cup favorite, and then down from there. I think that makes the most sense to me. I was really surprised to see how many teams, this is every year, right? Like the best teams get worse because they don't have the money to hold all their guys. So technically they all take a step back. Not all of them, but a lot of them do. And then the worst teams make like big leaps by grabbing those guys. But I still found that a lot of the teams that got worse actually moved up in the standings, and a lot of the teams that got better stayed put, maybe made a little jump, but some of them actually fell back, which I thought was kind of interesting. Anyway, let's get right into it. Oh, one last thing. Like, comment, subscribe. Nailed it. This is the type of video where everything is wrong. There is no right answer. So put your answers down below. Great. Number 32. This will surprise no one if you've been paying attention this last season. The Chicago Blackhawks. They finished 27th in the league last year. Did not make the playoffs, obviously. They suck. DeBrincat gone. Dylan Strome gone. Kubalik gone. These guys are just getting pushed out the door for not great returns, by the way. The rebuild has started. They're tanking on purpose. We hate to see it, and they're going to be atrocious. They basically told Kane and Tays to get fucked. They have to do that, but, I mean, they have to be, Kane and Tays has to approve it, so I get it. This team's going to be terrible. Terrible. And between the scandal and the on-ice product, I mean, I just don't see a point in watching them. If you're a Blackhawks fan, and you are asking yourself, why should I support this team? The easy answer is you shouldn't. Like, just take a couple years off from them. Watch other teams. That sounds super fair weather fanny, but, like, they are actively putting a bad product out on purpose. And you wouldn't go pay to see a bad movie, right? You wouldn't buy a bad car on purpose. Like, that doesn't deserve our respect to be like, oh, you're tanking to improve the team down the line. There's also, I mean, I recently saw an article saying, like, a bunch of guys you can root for on this team. Fucking are there? I mean, sure, individually, there's some guys who came in, but for the most part, the heart and soul of the team was all involved in a horrible scandal, and their owner basically shit the bed when handling it. I say become an Arizona Coyotes fan. First of all, they're going to be better than you this year, which is just hilarious to say out loud. And second of all, they would really welcome some fans. So, anyway, that's your 32nd ranked team. 31 is actually, unsurprisingly, the Arizona Coyotes. Also intentionally being bad. They have some more interesting pieces and aren't ready to fire sale all of them. But they didn't really do anything. They were terrible last year. They were 31st in the league. They'll likely be 31st again. Just one of those teams that's waiting to get the good pick to get out of the basement. At number 30, you have the San Jose Sharks, who are finally doing a rebuild. There is a difference, I think, between being a full tankathon, strip it to the fucking studs, and just a rebuild, you know? This team needs to get rid of big contracts. Sending Burns out the door was the first step that kind of showed everyone they're willing to do this. I actually really like a lot of the pieces they brought in. Sturm, Lindblom, Kunin, Lorentz, Nuttivara, Benning, like all these guys are like nice depth dudes that'll be fun to root for. But this team's going to be terrible, and they need to be bad. They still have plenty of reasons to show up to an arena, though. You've got guys that have been there for a long time, Carlson mostly, that you just want to root for. The team's going to be bad, and they've really needed to hit the reset button for a while now. They were winning for so long, not a cup, obviously, but they were winning for so long, it was just so hard to actually pull that trigger. So, 30th. They were 22nd in the league standings by the end of the regular season, so not too shabby there. They're just going to keep dropping, though, and it's going to be a long road back. At number 29, we have a team that some may not expect to see there, but the Philadelphia Flyers. They finished last year at 29th in the league standings, which is, fun little bit of consistency. But they brought in Tony DeAngelo, Justin Braun, and Delorier for some reason. Martin Jones and Lindblom out. Basically, the reason I have them so far back, because even if they have a healthier season, which last year was not healthy for them, the vibes are off, man. It's bad vibes. Basically, all they did for the offseason was shove a beloved depth guy at Lindblom out the fucking door and bring in Tony DeAngelo. Fine. Tony D is a good hockey player. He really is. Not great defensively. But there's no way the vibes get better under Torts. Tortorella's going to tear that room a new asshole. And they might start off with a better structure. It'll be a better coached team. They'll be more competitive in that regard. But it'll wear thin, and they'll start dropping. And they'll drop right back down to that deep, deep, deep bottom of the league standings. I had a better phrase to go there, and it just blanked out. This team sucks, and they should suck. God. When Chuck Fletcher just refuses to do his job, what do you think's going to happen? At number 28, you have the Montreal Canadiens. They did a lot, and they actually improved, but they finished the season 32nd overall last year. I don't think they did enough to get better, and their young guys are still working towards taking those next steps. This actually is a team that wouldn't be too surprising to see them take a bigger leap. Not competitive, but up in the 21s, 22s. But I still have them back down here for a couple reasons. First of all, I don't see a Dadonov resurgence. Kirby Dach is a good pickup. I like it. But Petrie's going to be missed at first. Romanov probably wouldn't be too missed, but it's still a guy that you were consistently had on the ice. Price. News has come out that Price might miss the whole season. They don't have goaltending behind Price, as we just saw last year. This team cannot keep the puck out of the net. It's going to be another bad year for the Canadiens. The fan base surprisingly seems to be like, you know what? We went to the Stanley Cup Finals. We needed to hit the reset button. We got the first overall pick. Cool. Too bad they couldn't get it this year. I bet they're fucking aiming for another top 3, though. There's some real good guys at the draft this year. We'll see what happens. At number 27, I have kind of a surprise here, which is the Buffalo Sabres. They were 24th in the league at season's end. You would think they'd actually improve upon that this year. They did bring in Comrie and Lyubushkin. I do like the Lyubushkin ad. I think he's a solid depth guy. They lost Pysyk, Colin Miller, and Butcher, none of which I'm really upset about. Pysyk's another good depth guy, but nothing to be concerned about. This ranking is much more about what the teams in front of them did. A lot of them added a lot this year. Anyone who had cap space weaponized it pretty well, I thought. This offseason for the Sabres was fine. I don't think the young guys are ready to take the big leap. I think in about 2 to 3 years, you're going to see that team improve vastly. But this is about where they should land right now. Sabres fans aren't upset to hear it. They understand the situation they're in. They've understood for the past 15 years or whatever it's been. It is what it is. I actually love watching the Sabres right now. I'm going to be honest about that. They are genuinely fun to watch. I mean, seriously, check out a couple of their games. They're fun to watch. They should be scrappy, but they won't win a lot of games. At number 26, a team I wanted to place higher, the Seattle Kraken. They placed 30th in the league last year, but they brought in Burakovsky, Bjorkstrand, Schultz, Martin Jones, sure, and Kempny. On the way out, it was Zarnak and Hayden Fleury. That's fine. That's a good offseason because what were the two issues that this team had? Couldn't score, couldn't keep the puck out of the net. Which I guess is like the whole game. They were bad at hockey. But here's the thing. Burakovsky and Bjorkstrand add scoring pop. They really do, and they should be tremendously fun to watch. They're not going to be able to carry that offense fully, but that offense will improve. And I'm betting that the goaltending at least somewhat comes back towards league average. Regression or progression, however you want to look at it, they were out of this world bad last year. I assume that they'll make at least a little progress. This team should improve. At number 25, your New York Islanders. They were 20th in the league standings last year, and that felt like a season from hell. Injuries, a 13-game road trip to start the season. Just awful progress throughout, and they got better towards the end of the season. They improved. But they just got a year older, which they're old, and they brought in Alex Romanov, which is a defenseman who's serviceable. But here's the thing. They couldn't score last year. And boy howdy, they brought in no scoring. In fact, they didn't do jack shit. Their goaltending, Sorokin, I think, at a 9.25. You're not improving on that. If anything, you're going backwards. Lou Lamoriello should have his Jack Adams Award stripped from him for how this offseason has gone so far. It's not over, but this team is not, as currently constructed, not sniffing a cup. Nowhere close. But it's the same team that they had when they were in the conference. I don't fucking care. This team's not good enough. It's simply not. And coaching, without Trotz, I'm going to guess is going to take a step back. At number 24, we have one of the hardest teams in the league to rank. It's the New Jersey Devils. Finished the season 28th in the league. They brought in a bunch. Palat, Haula, Vanacek, Marino. Don't love the Vanacek, but they needed something. They lost not much. Pavel Zacha, who they just weren't excited about, and Ty Smith, who I actually really liked, but is what it is. This is starting to get scary for Devils fans because every year they bring in a bunch during the offseason, which means they're spending top dollar, by the way. That means those contracts are in no way deals. They're spending real money for these guys in free agency. And they bring in all these guys, and they talk about how improved they should be, and nothing. They're not better. Or if they are, it's marginally, it's a little bit. They need to be competitive this year, and they won't be in a crowded Metro. They need a good season because these contracts that they keep signing free agency at full rates, and they're giving extra years to make sure that they get the guy, they get bad after 4 or 5 years. And those bills are coming due. I don't know. If I'm a Devils fan, I'm kind of like, we need a plan. And to me, it feels like they don't have a plan. At number 23, we have the Winnipeg Jets. They were 19th at the end of last year. They did jack shit all. They were a nothing of note team. They didn't get the coach they wanted, and they will continue to be obscure. They have the ability to win any given night, but they also crater way too often. That's it. I don't want to talk about Winnipeg. The team's pissing me off at this point by having options to be interesting and just not being interesting. At number 22, you have the Columbus Blue Jackets. They finished the season 21st in the league. Now, I know what you're thinking. They brought in Johnny Gaudreau, and they're going to get worse? Well, they also brought in Gabranson, and he's terrible. So, what do you want from me? Losing Bjorkstrand is a big hit. Gaudreau obviously makes up for that. Gaudreau is great. He's awesome. This is way more to do with other teams taking leaps and bounds with the guys they brought in than it is with the Blue Jackets. Because really, all they did was bring in Gaudreau, which again is a game changer and will win them games. I just don't think they did enough here. That's just my take on it. I don't know. It feels weird. This is going to be a really messy 18 to 24 range in this rankings where they're going to be swapped around. And they didn't do enough to actually improve in my book, which is crazy to say out loud. I kept wanting to push them up farther. There's not a single team ahead of them that I feel comfortable leapfrogging with them. It's weird. I said in the beginning of the video, it is weird about some of these teams seemingly getting better, but not actually moving up in the standings. Or, in fact, moving back. I don't know. At number 21, we have a team that I feel like a lot of you are waiting to hear, and that's the Ottawa Senators. They placed 26th in the league last year. They do take a pretty... this is a pretty big jump to me. A lot of people have them, like, playoff bound, which feels shiny new toy-ish. I don't think that's right. But DeBrincat and Giroux add a lot. Cam Talbot adds something, although I think the Senators found their guy in Forsberg, but still, that's fine. Matt Murray out the door, who cares? Connor Brown is going to be missed. Michael Delzato's depth, Gustafsson's depth, Tierney's depth. Not a lot of guys that you're worried about losing for a rebuilding, retooling at this point team. This is a big leap. I think that they're going to be a really fun team to watch, a really aggravating team to play. They're going to be able to put the puck in the net just out of nowhere. They have speed. They have the IQ on the ice for it. But they're not going to be enough. It's just not going to be enough consistency yet. I think the young guys having 1 or 2 more years is going to be huge, and they're going to get a lot more competitive very soon. But they still have some holes to fill. A lot of that has to do with the defense. At number 20, another team that marginally improved, they were 23rd in the league last year, was the Anaheim Ducks, bringing in Strome, Klingberg, Vetrano. They didn't really have anything go out of note. This ranking is more about the young guys improving, though. I like Ryan Strome. I like John Klingberg. I don't expect John Klingberg to finish the season with the team. I expect him to be a deadline guy because he's on a 1-year, basically, rental. They should be fun to watch. Zegras is really fun. I think this team will be competitive on some nights, but the consistency just isn't there yet. That's actually a lot of this range, of this 18 to 21 range, is teams that just aren't consistent yet. At number 19, you have the Detroit Red Wings, another team that a lot of people are just slotting into the playoffs for some reason in a very competitive East. It is not impossible. They brought in a lot. Husso, Perron, Kopp, Kubalik, Pissick, Zarnik, Olimata, there's Ben Sherratt, which I don't love the Sherratt stuff. They didn't really have anything go out either. I mean, Mark Stahl, who was depth, Thomas Greiss, who was, I don't even know on their actual goaltending ranking where he was. This team is going to be a problem, for other teams down the stretch. When they go out west, there's teams battling for those wild card spots. It's going to suck to see Detroit coming into the building because they, I think, will improve throughout the season. Their goaltending should be good. They still have to fill a couple gaps on defense, but they should be able to put the puck in the net too. Consistency's lacking, but this team's real interesting. This feels like the last season that Detroit is not in the playoffs for a while. Like a while. One of the biggest drops of this ranking is the St. Louis Blues, who would finish last year 9th in league standings. They lost to the Avalanche in round 2. I have them at 18th in my power rankings. They lost Husso, who basically saved their season, and Perron, who was really solid for them. They really didn't bring anything in. Josh Lavo, Nola Chari, Thomas Greiss, not a lot there. A couple depth guys. If Binnington does not continue his playoff form, because in the playoffs he was lights out, really good. If he doesn't continue that back into the regular season, this team's not going to make the playoffs. It's going to be painfully close, but they won't make it. And the fan base is going to be just flabbergasted about it, which I will be super okay with. At number 17, we have the Vancouver Canucks. They were 18th in the league last year, did not make the playoffs. They did bring in Mikheyev. Didn't really lose a lot. Brad Hunt, Halak, not a lot going on there. 17th feels right. I think I said last year that they would be bottom third in the league for the next 5 years and write it in pen. And they already weren't. So, whoops. It still feels like they're a long way away from actually competing. Like they're right there, but I don't know what moves they make to actually get great. I really don't. This team, as it's currently constructed with the prospects they have, feel like a team that their absolute best version is a conference finals loss. But it's hockey, so anything can happen. The more I say this, the more I feel like I'm guaranteeing a finals performance from them. So I'm going to shut up now. 17th. 17th feels right. 16th is the Dallas Stars. They were 15th in the league last year. Lost to Calgary in the first round. They actually did some nice stuff. I like the Colin Miller acquisition as just a depth defenseman. Mason Marchment is the big fish that they were able to grab. He is a low-risk, high-reward kind of guy to me because of the incredible season he had last year in Florida. They do lose Klingberg. I don't think that is going to be as painful as you would expect it to be, but it still is enough for them to kind of take a little bit of a step back. Honestly, if they can get Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin to start being worth the money they're paying them, this team gets vaulted right back into, holy shit, they're good. I mean, Rupe Hintz and Jason Robertson are out of this world. You add a classic Seguin and a classic Benn to that, they're great. But it has not been that way for a little while now. Stars might be slipping away, but their young guys are super fun to watch. At number 15, I have the Los Angeles Kings. They placed 14th last year. Man, I did a lot of this, 14th to 15th, 15th, whatever. Lost to the Oilers in the first round. It still feels like they're a playoff team. Still feels like they're not a contender, though, without Byfield actually turning into what I thought he would be. All year last year, I praised. Anytime I saw him play, I was like, God, he's so good. But then you look at his box score and everything, and you go like, where are the points? Where is the actual, like, production? I don't understand what's going there. I don't watch enough of the Kings to understand. But I think this year I have to start doing that because they're an interesting team. But when your top scorer just got another year older, I think 35 now in Kopitar or something like that, you start to worry a little bit if your young guys aren't stepping into those roles. I think 15th feels right. Kevin Fiala added into the mix will be good for them. But too many teams in front of them either got better or already were better enough that I'm not willing to jump them up there. If their young guys start catching fire, though, this team's going to be fucking scary. At number 14, I put a team that I wanted to push farther back because all they did basically was sign the old guard and bring in Jeff Petrie and some depth. But the Pittsburgh Penguins, 12th in league standings last year, lost in round 1 to the Rangers because of a Trouba hit. That's not fair. I mean, it's sort of fair. That series does not feel like it goes the Rangers' way unless Crosby gets injured. I just pissed off a lot of people. But they're 14th in my rankings. They didn't do a lot, and they lost John Marino, and they signed the old guard. Look, the team's going to be fun to watch, but it really feels like they just strapped on to their old elite core, and were like, hey, we're the new Sharks, baby! 14th was as low as I could put them, but I tried to go lower. The biggest drop of any team in the standings. They were first in the league last year, end of season. They got swept in the second round against Tampa. The Florida Panthers are 13th on the ranking. It is not because of the way their season ended, though. I'm going to read off who they lost. Jonathan Huberdeau, Mackenzie Weegar, Mason Marchment, Claude Giroux, Noel Acciari, Marcus Nandivara, Ben Sherratt. Ben Sherratt, again, I don't care. I don't think he's good. I just don't think he's a top pairing guy. He is good. Not a top pairing guy. They lost a shit ton. Yes, they brought in Tkachuk. But that's really all they did, and then a couple depth guys. Tkachuk's the best player out of all of those guys. But still, that's way too many people who can put the puck in the net that just left. Way too many. They made the right move by sending out Huberdeau and Weegar because those were headaches for next offseason that were going to blow up in their faces. They would have walked. I think they would have walked. Adding a franchise guy like Tkachuk is never a bad idea, or very rarely at least. But you've taken massive steps back and you've done nothing to improve your biggest issue, which is keeping the puck out of the net. This team just fell way, way, way farther back. Still super fun to watch. Still a playoff team. Still a dark horse contender at worst. But 13th felt right. I was pretty comfortable putting other teams in front of these guys after all of that talent just left. At number 12 is a team I wanted to move higher, but I couldn't find room for them. Nashville Predators placed 16th in the league last year, lost in the first round to the Colorado Avalanche. Don't even know if you could just say lost. They got smothered last year. But they put up a fun little fight if you watch those games. They can keep the puck out of their net with Saros. They have some real talent with on defense, especially Yossi, who debatably could have had a Norris this past season. And they added Nino Niederreiter to their offense. They added McDonough to their defense. If last year's scoring jump wasn't a fluke, if suddenly Duchesne and Johansson have returned to basically their normal form, this team got a lot scarier. That McDonough contract's going to suck. But the Nashville realizes that the rebuild is soon. Very, very soon. They want one last try. And they have a couple years to try to make that happen. I really like what they did this offseason. They barely lost anything, just some depth. They can keep the puck out of the net and they can score on other teams. That's good enough for me. That is a playoff team, and one that maybe not going to be great against the elite teams, but certainly is going to make a couple teams worried. At number 11, the Boston Bruins. Placed 10th in the league last year, lost in the first round to Carolina in 7 games. They brought in Pavel Zacha and David Krejci. Eric Haula and Curtis Lazar are gone. I wanted to move them higher because they were a top 10 team in the league last year without David Krejci. But this has to do with a lot of uncertainty. The injuries in the beginning of the year, are they too much to overcome? David Krejci, how does he actually look when he comes back? Does Patrice Bergeron start acting his age? Like, these are things that are very concerning to me that should be real concerns. The talent level in the best case scenario is top 6 in the league. The worst case scenario is really not pretty, which is kind of the Bruins' MO the past 3 years, so par for the course, I guess. 11th feels right, even though it's a place farther back than they actually landed last year. I don't think anyone's going to get their heart broken about that. At number 10, we have the Vegas Golden Knights. Did not make the playoffs last year. They were 17th in the league, but that was a season from hell. They had injuries upon injuries upon injuries, and oh, look at that. Robin Lehner's out for the season. Fuck! I love when this team isn't doing well. I'm really bummed for Lehner, but they didn't bring anything in and lost Pacioretty, Dadonov, Janmark, and Lehner. Those are basically the main names that they lost. Feels like the Flowers curse is as strong as ever. But if you look at the roster, that team's still really fucking good. The problem is they need an answer in net ASAP. They do actually have the money now to make it happen, but there's not a lot on the market. They've got to grab someone and bring him in. And I don't know if that's possible, but with the way their top 6 looks and the difference makers they do have on defense, I'm not willing to push them out of the top 10. Which might be a mistake. But I'm going to keep them there for now. Which means we're into the top 10 now. Number 9 is Edmonton Oilers hockey. 11th in the league last year. Lost in the conference finals to Colorado. They brought in Jack Campbell. They brought in Janmark. They lost Zach Kassian. They added a potential improvement in net with Campbell, which would be good for them. They also now get a full year of Evander Kane, which is... No matter how you feel about the guy, his on ice, he's good. He's a good hockey player. So, at the end of the day, this team should only improve with these additions. I feel pretty good about the Oilers this year. Is there enough? No, there's not enough depth behind their 2 superstars. But that team is still good enough to win on any given night. They could place anywhere in the league, and I'd kind of be like, yeah, I see it. I mean, obviously for it to be like bottom half and McDavid injury or something like that, but I'd still see it. At number 8, we have a team that is under a lot of scrutiny for a lot of reasons, and people don't know where to place them. They were 6th in the league last year, lost in the second round of the Oilers. It is the Calgary Flames. They did a ton this offseason. Let's read it. They brought him in. Great. Kadri, Huberdeau, Weegar. That's a lot of talent they just brought in. Out. Monahan, who's had injuries for the past couple of years. They had to strap a first to him. That had to happen. There's still a chance for Monahan to return to being like a real hockey player, but he'll have to figure that out with the Habs. Tkachuk, Gaudreau, Yarncrux, Goodbranson. Honestly, Goodbranson leaving is a plus in itself. Just a heads up. I don't buy the Flames might be better this year than last year. I don't buy it. That's a narrative that I'm not with. They lost Johnny Gaudreau, Matthew Tkachuk, and Yarncrux. That's painful. And look, I understand the arguments. But Huberdeau also had 115 points. Yeah, and is atrocious defensively. And that's not some narrative about the guy that's not true. Watch him play hockey. He does not give a flying fuck about defense at all. The dude might as well be standing next to the bench, sucking on popsicles, waiting for the puck to come up to him. On the flip side of that, Johnny Hockey had 115 points, is underrated defensively. He's a decent, if not good, defender. And then on the other end, well, I mean, Huberdeau outscored Tkachuk. Yeah, you're right about that. Tkachuk, only 104 points, affects the game in 200 feet, first of all, a great defensive winger, and on top of that, affects the game in many facets, in a plethora of ways. He gets under people's skin, he fights, he gets into the dirty areas. He is the total package of a franchise player. Huberdeau is not as good as Johnny Gaudreau, and he's not as good as Matthew Tkachuk. Weegar is actually a great addition. I'm going to give you that. That's fine. But don't tell me the team took a step forward by bringing those guys in and losing two great 200-foot wingers. Like superstar wingers. That's not how this works. It's not how this works. Look, all I'm saying is I'd rather have the guys that walked out the door than the guys that walked in, for most of them. I still have them 8th. They're still a very good team. They're still going to be competitive. They still could win a cup, but they have to win a cup in the next couple of years, probably 3 or 4 years. Or we're going to look back at this offseason and go, holy shit. Like, what a wasted opportunity that team was. Just brutal. Just absolutely brutal. My take, at least. At number 7, the Washington Capitals. What a leap. 13th in the league last year. Lost in the first round to Florida. A team that we all kind of were like, that is the only team in the East that you actually want to play in the playoffs. And it really was. It was the only team out of the 8 teams in the East that you were like, yes, I want that matchup. Every other team, there was a reason for you to go, they're actually pretty good. They brought in Kemper, Dylan Strome, Connor Brown, and a couple depth guys. Vitek Vanecek out the door. He wasn't doing anything for him anyway. Ilya Samsonov, same thing. Michael Kempny is a good depth piece. These guys don't really matter in the grand scheme of it, and they brought in goaltending. They could not buy a save last year, and I know Kemper had a rough end of the year, but he has been a very good goaltender for a very long time now. This is a huge get for them. Strome and Brown should pay dividends as well. Backstrom's injury obviously is a concern, but they only had him for 47 games last year, and it's not like he was some game breaker for them anyway. The team got better, and they got better between the pipes, which was massive for them. At number 6, you have the Minnesota Wild, 5th in league standings last year, lost in the first round to the Blues, shockingly. I really thought that they were gonna make a little bit of a run. They lost Fiala and Talbot. That's pretty much what happened. They didn't really add much. That's bad, but they don't have any money to. But they also have a very good prospect pool, and Matt Boldy should take another step forward. So I just think this team is straight up dangerous. Marc-Andre Fleury in net, who's shown that he can be good. There's been some ups and downs, but they can put the puck in the net. They're creative and fun and frustrating. That's a fun team to watch. I think 6th feels real right for them because I think there's conference finals potential for them. Speaking of conference finals, top 5 time. Hell yeah. New York Rangers, number 5. They were 7th in the league standings. They lost the conference finals to the Tampa Bay Lightning. They did bring in Trocheck and Halak to back up Shesterkin, but they did lose Ryan Strome, Georgiev, Andrew Kopp, Frank Vetrano, and Justin Braun, and Kevin Rooney. I'll just name all of them. Trocheck for Kopp, I don't know if that's a huge downgrade, if one at all. Halak for Georgiev, that's probably an improvement based on what Georgiev's season was last year. They're going to miss Vetrano. They're going to miss Strome. But this team's ceiling is so damn high with Shesterkin. They're so dangerous. As long as he continues to play the way he did last year, he's the great equalizer. If Capo Caco or Lafreniere takes a step forward this season, this team becomes scary. They feel top 5-ish to me. And that might be a safe pick because of how well they did in the playoffs, but it sounds right. At number 4, I have the Tampa Bay Lightning. They finished the season 8th in the league standings. They went to the conference finals. They did go to the conference finals. Then they went to the Stanley Cup finals, and they lost to the juggernaut Colorado Avalanche. They lost a lot. Palat and McDonough, at least immediately, is going to be felt. They didn't bring in anything but depth. Ian Cole, Nemesnikov, Hayden Fleury, none of those guys are game changers by any stretch of the imagination. That being said, Point, Stamkos, Kucherov, and more importantly, Vasilevsky, I'm not disrespecting any of them. Number 4, it feels very right to me. At number 3, you might have noticed I haven't mentioned the Toronto Maple Leafs yet. Well, here we go. 4th in the league standings last year, lost in the first round to Tampa in 7 games, as we all predicted. And if you didn't predict it, then you haven't been paying attention. They brought in Matt Murray, Samsonov, Yarncroc, who I actually really like, Abe Kubel, who I actually really like. They did lose out on Campbell, Mikheyev, Mrazek, Kasha, who they'll miss, Colin Blackwell, who I think they'll miss, and Lyubushkin, who I think they'll miss. The team's still really fucking good. Their top 6 is at worst top 5 in the league. Their defense has some game changers in it. They don't really have an answer in net. I don't like the Murray acquisition, but there's just too many game breakers on that squad. And Austin Matthews just continues to get better. This team is scary. They need an answer in net. Matt Murray, maybe he has a resurgence. Maybe. But 3rd in the league for me feels really good because if they can just get league average goaltending, that offense is too good. Too good. At number 2, I mentioned that we had a new number 1 for this season's power rankings. That's because the Colorado Avalanche are 2nd. They finished 2nd in the league standings last year, and obviously, they won the cup. Here's why they're 2nd. They lost Kadri, Kemper, Burakovsky, Nico Sturm, Abe Kubel. That's a lot of actual scoring ability and depth that just went out the door. Now, internally, they have plenty of competition. Their prospects are good. They're going to be fine. Like, they're not taking a massive step back. What I'm concerned about is Kemper's out the building. They decided that their answer in net was a struggling Georgiev from the Rangers last year, who has never been a number 1 on any squad. Look, they've shown that with league average goaltending through the playoffs, is not even what they got, but they've shown that they can win despite goaltending. But you don't challenge that further by downgrading further. The team's still going to be wicked good. Their top 6 is elite. Their top 4 defensemen are elite. I mean, it's absurd I even have them 2nd. But they've lost enough, and they have no one in between the pipes that really gives me a ton of confidence. I'm not putting them 1st. Number 1! A team that I so terribly did not want to put here, and Thomas is going to kill me. The Carolina Hurricanes. Look, they lost some real pieces. Tony DeAngelo was very good for them. Nino Niederreiter was good for them. Vincent Trocheck was good for them. Ian Cole was good for them. So, that's a bummer. Oh, hi, Velma. That's a bummer. They brought in Pacioretty, who won't be healthy for another 6 months, but will be a massive boost for them. They brought in Brent Burns, who I think is a suitable Tony DeAngelo replacement at worst. And they also got Kasha, who I think has great depth. He has a goal scorer's touch. We've seen that before. He just can't stay healthy. So there's a bit of risk there. So why am I so high on the Carolina Hurricanes? If they lost in the 2nd round, if they couldn't win a game away from home during the playoffs, if they also technically took a step back by all the pieces they lost, and the main piece they brought in is injured. Why was I so high on them? Am still high on them. Well, this is why. At 24 years old, now obviously he's 25 now, but at 24, Sebastian Aho had 81 points. At 21 years old, Andrei Svechnikov had 30 goals. At 19 years old, Seth Jarvis had 40 points. 23-year-old Martin Necas, 40 points. And then Jesperi Kotkaniemi, 29 points at 21 years old. That one's probably a bit of a stretch. But they have young difference makers all over their offense. They are potentially all going to take a step forward. This team has so much talent. And at the end of the year, we heard Rod Brindamore's statements about maybe we don't have an elite goal scorer. And then you look over and go, Svechnikov's 21, he had 30 goals. What? I don't know, man. This team, you add in the game-breaking ability of Slavin on the defense, by the way, just absurd. This team has the potential to be great, and they actually have a guy in net in Anderson, which is why I have them over the Avalanche. 32 teams, all ranked. Please tell me below what I got wrong, what I got right. Please tell me I got something right at least. Like, comment, subscribe if you will. Thank you for all the support. If you want to support the channel, there's a Patreon that's got stuff going on. I don't know. There's all sorts of good stuff going on. Join the Discord. Great conversations. We're probably ramping back up soon. I mean, it's been a little quiet lately just because nothing been going on. I'm petting my dog, for those of you who can't see. Hold on. Come here. Come here. There's just a lot of hand movement on the screen that you guys must have been like, what's that all about? But hey, go whatever team that you're supporting, but also mostly for sure go Bees. So, yeah. Go Bees!